Subscribe to the channel for more tales like these.
Aita for being upset because my wealthy best friend wouldn't let me borrow $5. My best friend and I have been friends for nearly 7 years. When we first met, she was struggling financially and lived paycheck to paycheck. At one point, her car broke down and she had no transportation to work, so I would let her borrow my car and never asked her for gas money or anything in return. At the time, I was financially secure and was happy to help her out. As the years went by, my financial situation changed and just like her, I began living paycheck to paycheck. By this time, she had started dating a guy she met online who revealed to her a few months into dating that he was a millionaire. They married shortly after and suffice to say she has not had to struggle since. There have been a few times I have asked to borrow money, which I have always paid back. It's usually not much, less than $25 or so each time, and she would always oblige with no problems until recently. The last couple times I asked to borrow money, she said she didn't have it, which I found odd. But then I asked to borrow $5, and she said the same thing, and I thought it was odd that she told me she didn't have $5 to spare. I know that ever since she got married, her brothers and a couple other friends have tried taking advantage of her newfound wealth by asking to borrow money they never paid back and having her bail them out of situations they put themselves in that have cost her a lot of money. I started to think that maybe I had forgotten to pay her back money I owed her at some point, so I reached out to her to ask if that was the case. When she told me that wasn't the case, as in, I had always paid her back, I told her I felt hurt because it felt like if I needed her help with something, I used the example if I ended up in jail, that I couldn't reach out to her for help because she couldn't even let me borrow $5. She replied and said that just like her brothers, I needed to learn how to budget my money better and that she can't be the one to bail everyone out. She said when she was struggling, she had to work multiple jobs and did what she had to do. I replied and said that it was not fair for her to lump me in with her brothers as I have never done anything to take advantage of her and I never would have said something like that to her when I let her borrow my car and any time she would ask me to borrow money when she was struggling. I told her I loved her but that I was ending the conversation and she replied that this is why money and friends should never mix. Since then, she has reached out and said, I didn't deserve that conversation last night, I hope you know that, to which I have not replied to and have no plans to. I am deeply hurt that she feels I was in the wrong, but I do not think I was the asshole here. I understand that I am not entitled to anyone's money, borrowed or not, but when she was in my shoes, I did everything I could to help her out. I could understand if I had asked to borrow a large amount of money, but I literally asked for $5. Top comments. First. Definitely NTA. I can't help but wonder if the wealthy spouse plays any part in this. As in, I don't want you spending our money on those people. Oddly enough, I have a wealthy friend that this story reminds me of. We've known each other 40 years going back to little kids. When we were in high school and college together, both of us were broke. If I had enough money for chips, I'd share the bag or vice versa. That sort of stuff was normal. We never kept score. Now I'm just a regular working guy and he has had the keys to his trust fund and family business for many years. Since those days, I've never asked him for a single cent. I have, however, asked for help in other ways like borrowing a tool for a project or just an extra pair of hands. He leaves me on read when he just won't say no. The moral to this story is friendship is really only as good as the friend and time changes us all. Don't doubt yourself, OP. Second. I hope it's not the case for OP's friend, but I've known people who married up and their spouse created a kind of I'm better than you, it's a privilege for someone like you to even be with someone like me vibe. My mother's friend was married like that. She married a very rich man who insisted she stays a housewife. He spent loads of money on extremely lavish things for himself, but was stingy with her because he never saw her as a person who deserved them because it was his lifestyle, not hers. A lot of women don't benefit from a rich husband/partner's money in the form of having literal cash at their disposal. OP is NTA, but there definitely could be different circumstances behind the scenes for their friend. Third. It's interesting here because I usually see it more in people who have always been rich. They think they're rich because they budgeted and were smart with money, when really it has more to do with always having a safety net and starting with more money than others to begin with and connections making it easier to get a good job. I have a few friends who never had money growing up but then have much more income now who are very generous whenever possible. It sucks that somebody OP was so generous with is now pretending she has money because she's so good with budgeting. I also think this will probably end poorly if she splits up with her husband, because rich people usually know how to cover their but when it comes to protecting their wealth, and I really doubt she's gotten better with money in the interim, just has access to more of it than she previously did. Fourth. I had a friend who was absolutely dead broke, not a dime to her name. She didn't work, except for the occasional babysitting gig, etc., and was eventually evicted from her apartment. I was living in privately owned student housing at my university, and had been paying for a double room by myself, because at the time, I had horrible insomnia. Could not live with another person in one room, turning off and on lights, blasting music, bustling around, etc. Nevertheless, I felt sorry as she had nowhere to go. The room was basic, but it was fairly spacious, only as messy as a normal college student can be, and she had her own bed. I even made sure she ate. If I got a pizza or something, I'd get enough for her, too. Brought food from home to share. It was frigid, bitter cold winter outside, but I made sure she had a warm place. Might not have been fancy, but it was a roof, and there was a big bathroom down the hall, plus showers right across the hall. So, she had toilet and shower usage, and there was also a small laundry room available downstairs. She was with me for a couple months, then her I don't know husband allowed her to move with him a few states away. Flash forward about 2.5 years. I'd been through a horrific, painful, emotionally wrenching couple years after she left. I graduated uni, and was feeling less than welcome at home. I asked her if I could come stay in the state, in a large metro area, where she was, and she said yes, but, blah 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 conditions. Long story short, she treated me like dirt, laid power trips on me, and I witnessed her rageful insanity towards her boyfriend and me, and other people. She was a drunken nut job, I was drinking right along with her, lol. I couldn't help but contrast how I'd treated her when she was down and out, to how she was toward me. I was at least working, found a job pretty quickly after moving there, paid rent to them, whereas she never gave me a dime, nor did I expect anything. Some people are mainly takers. It's sad. Fifth. Studies have shown that even if people obtain wealth through hard work or luck, they become less empathetic. It happens even when people are playing Monopoly. They get meaner and more cutthroat. There was a Berkeley study about it. They showed a pedestrian on a street in the rain. Cheaper cars driving by would slow down to not splash the pedestrian, while the more expensive vehicles would speed up to splash the pedestrian. And they rigged the Monopoly game in favor of one person. Despite knowing it was rigged, the winning player became more aggressive and cruel as the games went on, pretty much in all the people they used in their study. Money changes you. Subscribe.